Hello and welcome to Global News Factory. I'm your host, Vikrant. Romania says a drone slipped into its airspace. Two F-16s flew escort for about 20 kilometers, then it vanished from radar. No damage, no panic on the ground, just sirens, a scramble and a mystery. No immediate danger, yet a very loud message. Now, this comes after Poland had its own drama days earlier. Air alerts, drones crossing in from direction of Ukraine, intercepts, confusion, the usual fog. Now, first it is over there, now it is over here. That is how border wars creep. Now, to the hot theory. Was it a Kyiv false flag? See, I don't buy it. I know a lot of you don't agree with me, but let me present my argument. It fails the basic logic test. After the Poland episode, NATO's priority is obvious. Guard their own fences. They are busy patching the holes and not opening new ones. If Kyiv tried a false flag on Romania, it would scare the very countries that keep Ukraine supplied. That means fewer batteries, fewer missiles, fewer favors. And why would Ukraine set fire to its supply lines? That is not strategy, that is a selfie with a burning kitchen. Now, let's talk performance. NATO versus drones. This does not look nice for NATO. The drones were surprisingly super advanced. In Romania, the F-16s babysat a target that then simply vanished. In Poland, only 4 of 19 could be shot down. If this were a scripted stunt, it is failing at the optics. No way. The alliance scripts a humiliation scene for itself. That is not how PR works. So what the drones Russian? Let's see what Hungary's Viktor Orban says, who by the way is an ally of Russia and Putin. His words are, if you play near the fire, expect sparks. See, NATO is not a neutral spectator. The alliance is the part of the supply chain. They host the hardware, they route the ammo and weapons, they train the crews. Of course, the war will test their skies. Make no mistake, incursions are not attacks. No apartment blocks hit, no fuel depots smoking, no funerals. And that matters. It means the intent today is signaling, not escalation. A polite, performed knock, dial back your support, or your calm skies won't stay calm. It is pressure without a crater. It is theater with a warning label. And here is the big question. Do we need a false flag to make NATO fight Russia? Come on! They are already in it, just without uniforms at the front, weapons, training, intel, financing, sanctions, logistics, air defense umbrellas. That is called involvement. The line between helping and fighting is already thin. You don't need an actor in a mask to prove it. Think in incentives. Ukraine needs Romania and Poland calm and generous, not spooked and stingy. NATO needs to look strong and be able to defend itself, not confused. Russia benefits from this. Cheap drones, expensive noise. One buzzing object can hijack an entire news cycle and force a NATO country to burn fuel, close an airport, and answer angry questions from voters. For NATO, the message is simple. The war has a long arm and it reaches over fences. Now, what next? If the alerts become routine, the political cost rises in Brussels. People can tolerate sirens once in a while, not every weekend. You support Ukraine, expect turbulence. Either way, Europe's border comfort is over. The war is standing at the doorbell. It is still outside of the house, waiting for common sense to prevail. So here's my bottom line. I don't see it as a Kyiv false flag, wrong tool, wrong timing, wrong audiences. I see it as a stress test of NATO nerves and NATO budgets. a reminder that distance is dead in drone warfare, and a warning shot to the border hosts: keep fueling the war, and your sky will not be a quiet sky. No fireworks, just fire alarms for now. Let's be honest, if September 10 in Poland was a NATO stage play, Warsaw would not be tiptoeing right now, it would be peacocking. Look at the moves. The feathers are down, the tone is nervous, the policy is retreat. That is not a victory lap, that is, we touched the stove and it was hot. Poland has just put brakes on the bravado. The plan to send Polish personnel into Ukraine for training? Parked. The new line is simple. All joint training with Kyiv on drones will happen inside Poland, not across the border, not in theater, inside Poland, with Polish rules, with Polish cover. That is what you call insulation. That is a capital saying we don't want direct contact with Russian troops, with Russian fire. Now, why does this matter? Because if the September 10 drone drama were a false flag to pull NATO deeper, the sequel would be bigger, louder, and bolder. The next headline would be forward deployment, not stay at home. You don't run a grand conspiracy to justify involvement and then immediately choose the safest, dullest option. You don't shout Article 5 vibes and then pull the training to your backyard. That is not how a ploy behaves. That is how panic behaves. Even Kyiv's own talk points boomerang here. There were reports in Kyiv media that Polish personnel would travel to Ukraine for counter-drone instructions. That was the loud version. Now we have the quiet version. No trips, no exposure, no photo ops near Odessa. Just we will do it here. Thanks. If you listen closely, you can hear the gears grinding from ambition to caution. But here is one more thing. Poland's defense ministry also poured cold water on reports of a massive rally of troops. The ministry said, I'm quoting, "It is untrue that thousands of Poles are to receive summons." Now they are saying, oh, it is all part of routine, fitness, paperwork, normal bureaucracy. That is not a country building a drumline. That is a country easing a heart rate. Earlier, whispers talked about hundreds of thousands of medical checks. Today's line is, nothing to see here. That is not a march. That is a backpedal. Now, step back and look at the picture we all know. Poland has been gearing up for years. Heavy defense spending, the Tusk line of fortifications across the Belarus border, mines, ditches, reinforced positions, a transit superhighway for Western arms into Ukraine. Warsaw cast itself as the hard man of the eastern flank, proud, loud, and ready. Moscow saw that and said what Moscow always says: if you turn your country into a logistics hub against us, it becomes a valid pressure point. You don't have to like the logic, but the logic is very clear. If NATO wanted deeper involvement, Poland would be the point of the spear, not the hand pulling back. You would see advisors forward, not retreats to home turf. You would see joint training in Ukraine, not please come to our side of the fence. You would see dramatic buildup of troops, not a ministry saying, calm down, this is routine. The behavior is the tell. The behavior says we felt the heat and we are stepping away from the flame. What is Russia doing now? Exactly what it needs to. Low cost, high impact pressure, drones that force costly responses, alerts that close airports, reroute flights, and drain budgets. Skies that never quite feel safe. No big strikes, just constant friction. It turns Poland's greatest strength, its eagerness, into a liability. If you still think September 10 was a NATO ploy to get in, explain the retreat, explain the cancelled trips, explain the love for training at home, explain the government saying no mass summons. If this was a script, it is the worst one in theater history. The simpler answer is the real one. Poland touched the flame, Poland blinked, and now Poland is trying to keep the war next door, literally next door. That is a shift, not a roar, a recoil, not a charge, a careful step back. Panic struck is your word, or maybe sobered. Moving on. We have slammed Trump for days, for weeks now. Today, he earns a clap. He has found a clean exit lane from the Ukraine mess, and he is sending the bill to Europe. He is saying in simple words, NATO, stop buying Russian oil. He adds a clever hinge. I am all set to hit Russia with major sanctions when you do the same. That is the pivot. He ties his move to their backbone. If they don't act, he does not have to. If they do act, they bleed first. He also issued the same decree to G7. If you are truly committed, then tariff countries that buy Russian oil. Earlier, he pushed the EU to slap tariffs on India and China. Translation, you go first, show me your courage, I will be right behind you, somewhere near the exit. To me, this makes complete sense. Outsource the pain, keep the leverage, make others pick the hard fight. He knows the math. Remove the US from G7 and NATO, and you are left with a pack of tired economies, dead engines, as you put it. They cannot afford a tariff war with China and India. The EU is in talks with New Delhi anyway. You don't tariff the country you are wooing. That is not diplomacy, that is a breakup text. And that is exactly the point. Trump knows they won't jump, so he wins either way. If Europe blinks, he says, we tried, they failed, not our problem. If they actually do it, Europe eats the inflation, the industry pain, the energy shock. The US gets distance from the war's cost while claiming moral high ground. It's a neat trick, a policy that works even when it does not work. There is another layer. The US economy needs oxygen. As you noted, job growth is weak, people feel it. Tariffs on India and China are gasoline on a grocery bill. They punch supply chains, they raise prices, they scare businesses. Trump has tested the heat and now understands the pain.
But I've already done it. I've done a lot. Look, India was their biggest customer. I put a 50% tariff on India because they're buying oil from Russia. That's not an easy thing to do. That's a big deal. And it causes a rift with India, you know. And remember this is a Europe problem much more than our problem.
Tariffing India comes at a cost. Yes, energy inputs, pharma inputs, IT services, 1,000 invisible parts that keep American life running. You jack that up, you slow the machine. So he moves the ball. Europe, do the heavy lift. NATO, walk your talk. Here's my big prediction. Trump is indicating a path to get rid of tariffs on India without looking soft. If the EU never dares to slap India or China, he can quietly dial back to 25% and sell it as smart calibration, not retreat, optimization. And it would be the right call. Those tariffs are lose-lose. They hurt American consumers and they don't break India. They annoy a partner you actually need. It also reshuffles the Ukraine deck. By shifting the economic burden to Europe, he forces Brussels to confront reality. The factories are tired, energy is fragile, deficits are heavy, voters are restless. For Russia and the global south, this is proof that patience pays. Sanctions fatigue is real. The BRICS energy map is bigger than EU's wish list. You can shame India all day, it won't turn off affordable barrels to make Berlin happy. You can try to squeeze China, you will squeeze your own supply chain first. That is why Trump's move works. He is asking Europe to do the impossible so he does not have to do the suicidal. Bottom line, Trump has found a pressure valve. He keeps the tough talk on Russia. He spares the US economy the worst pain. He dares Europe to jump off a cliff it cannot afford. He signals that tariffs on India were always a bad idea and that a step down is common sense, not weakness. Shift the burden, keep the optics, protect the wallet. It is rare that Washington does something both politically sharp and economically sane. This is one of those days. And yes, this is good for India, good for Russia, good for the BRICS. The West can shout slogans, money talks, energy talks, trade talks. Trump just handed the megaphone to them and told Brussels, if you are serious, prove it. Europe won't, which means the US can quietly exit the worst of the Ukraine coasts and blame Europe for the rest. That is checkmate without flipping the board. And that is all for now. Thank you very much for being with me. You're watching GNF.